Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MC BUD, Building an Urban Design and Development Introduction. I am Giovanna Stolfo. I'm lecturer in urban design, and I'm also program leader, one of the two program leaders of the MC BUD. Let me also introduce Laya Garcia. She's going to speak to you in a moment. She is our graduate teaching assistant, and she's also a BUD alumna and a PhD researcher and a practitioner, of course. Thanks, Alex. Alex Mefalan is DPU Media and Comms Officer. Thanks for hosting this event. Thanks for being with us today. So I will now briefly introduce the program, the MC BUD, its focus, objectives, the learning trajectory, the main approach, the skills developed, and the careers, more or less. But I'll be kind of brief. Then I will leave the floor to my colleague Laya, who will speak from her perspective as both staff alumna and PhD student. And after that, we will take your questions. The MC BUD is one of 7 master programs offered by the Development Planning Unit in London. It is a 1-year program, which can be taken full or part-time. In the latter case, it runs over 2 years. Similarly to other programs, it has a strong focus on urban challenges and an interdisciplinary and practice-oriented approach, though it centers on urban design. Current urban challenges are massive: unequal development, destruction of community heritage, the impact of climate crisis and protracted conflict on individuals and groups, continuous displacement and dispossession, banishment and incarceration are few of them. Here at BUD, we are committed to address them, or better, to equip students with the necessary thinking, the skills and the tools to address them in their future work. These massive urban challenges require, first, the development and sophistication of a critical thinking, meaning the ability to see beyond what appears, to scratch the surface of things, to trouble assured views of the world. We like to call this an investigative journalist and disobedient approach to urban design. The ability not just to put forward good questions, but to question the question, including, in the first place, questioning what is design, what is its purpose, why we need design, and what design counts. Today's challenges also call for an approach to the urban that is necessarily interdisciplinary, meaning that conceives urban design as a hybrid, vulnerable, and interdependent discipline that operates like a sponge, borrowing from other disciplines, from political economy, urban sociology, feminist ecology, and so on. One single angle is never enough to address the complexity of the challenges posed by climate change, by development, by displacement. Such complexity also requires an attitude that is simultaneously engaged, caring, and situated. The engaged practitioner is our reference point, a practitioner who humbly engages with the local reality of a place, its social and power relations. A practitioner who avoids and rejects any universalizing approach, and who is self-aware, meaning aware of her or his levels of privilege, knowledge, and status, and who knows how to constantly embed a reflection on this in her or his practice. This is not an easy endeavor. With the scale of current urban challenges, we tend to linger in a crisis thinking, which unfortunately has the power to defuture our present, eroding our confidence. Think about the devastations brought about by racial capitalism everywhere in the world. And against this, we wish to offer an urban design education that resists and disobeys, that embraces uncertainty, subjectivity, people-centered and activist work. We like to see ourselves as activists. There is no planet B. Increased inequality, poverty, and racism, all of that is a call for action now, a call for a generation of urban designers that care for the planet, for the people, and for each other. Now, in order to address these objectives, the program is conceived as an immersive learning journey across critical urban theories and debates, participatory methodologies, and practice-based engagements in northern, southern, and eastern realities. In all of our modules, students are exposed to a wide variety of conceptualizations, debates, methods and methodologies, case studies, and current projects. We put a lot of effort in constantly connecting students with ongoing action research and enable their engagement with partners, communities, and activities, gaining practical experience. The content is delivered through different teaching techniques and learning activities, from taught lectures to online seminars to design-based studios, visits, workshops, and tutorials. Across the 3 terms, between September and April every year, students have the possibility to engage with political economy approaches to the production of urban space, especially in the neoliberal city. They also have the possibility to unpack certain notion of participation and development, and especially their relation with power and knowledge through a human geography and feminist approach. They have the possibility to design more just and equitable urban transformations for marginalized communities in the global north and south. Overall, students have the possibility to understand the role of urban design and of designers beyond market-driven, solution-based projects towards more just urban transformations. Our program, the MC-BAD, is articulated across 3 core modules, which are deeply interconnected. They run across term 1 and term 2, so between September and March every year, and they count as 90 credits, or 75% of the taught component. The module called Practice Module runs across 3 terms until June. It is the backbone of the program and the laboratory where theories and methods are tested. This module consists of a studio with a London case study and a field trip project with a preparation in London and a trip to an overseas destination. In the past few years, we went to Myanmar, to Colombia. Last year, due to the pandemic restrictions, we traveled within the UK to Sheffield. The field trip is an immersive experience into the reality of local communities, their struggle for place and housing, their tactics of refusal, care, and resistance. Coursework for all modules range from written essays to individual and group projects and reports. On top of the core modules, students also choose amongst optional modules in a wide variety of complementary topics, from climate change to transport and equity, gender planning, housing and disaster risk reduction, to name but few. Finally, students have to develop a dissertation, which is part of a separate module, which runs across the summer term between June and September. Each student is requested to develop a 10,000-word essay, an original piece of research, well grounded into literature on a topic relevant to development and urban design. Within our program and across every module, students are considered active learners. In class, we challenge the rigid division between teacher and learner. We give agency to students, positioning them as both critics and creative producers, fostering continuous dialogue and collaborative practice among students, staff, and guest speakers. The learning happens incrementally across all these interactions and exposures, and also through readings, observation, and site visits. Within the program, we give students plenty of opportunities to present and disseminate their work through exhibitions and publications, and through writing in pamphlets, blogs, and books. You can have a sense of that in the slide that Laya is projecting. I would like to invite you to check our students' work on our website. And on top of these, BAD Students Project have been invited to international exhibitions, including the Venice Biennale, the World Architecture Festival, the Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism of Chile, and the London Festival of Architecture. A final word now about careers, and then I leave the floor to Laya. Our applicants are architects, planners, engineers, geographers, artists, anthropologists, and social scientists who have a common passion for urban challenges. Similarly to other programs, we welcome students with diverse backgrounds. Professional experience is a plus. After the program, BAD graduates either return to work in their previous post with an augmented knowledge and skills, or start a new career in a field that is related to urban design. BAD graduates work for governments, for private firms, NGOs, and charities. They also might start their own organization or practice. Some of them return to DPU after a few years of practice to pursue a PhD, a doctoral research. Students usually remain in touch for years after graduation, forming an extended network of alumni with whom we continue to develop projects and several forms of engagement. And you can visit their work in a recently launched webpage, which address we will share in the chat shortly. This is the end of my very, very short introduction. I leave the floor to Laya and we will take the questions afterwards.
Yeah, thank you very much, Giovanna. I hope that we will have also Sophia very soon, who is another alumna from recently graduated last year. So whenever she joins, then I will finish my part and introduce her, so to explain her experience as alumna. So taking it from the career side, for me, speaking about BAD means speaking as part of the staff, as I am right now the graduate teaching assistant of the program, as Giovanna introduced me before. But at the same time, I am a PhD student, almost hopefully at the end of that path. And at the same time, I am a BUDD alumna who graduated in 2019, so also not long time ago. So I could say that my experience in BUDD is a bit of an interdisciplinary one. So I wanted to start with this map, in which I will share also the link. So you will be able to check the different that all our alumni from BAD, DPU, which in the end is a whole department in which you engage with other students coming from different parts of the world with different skills and backgrounds. And in this website, you are able to see what's the route that each of our alumni has taken, and also how different students have engaged with each other, even coming from different of the 7 programs that run across the DPU. So in my experience, as if I can talk as my experience as when I was a student of BAD, for me, well, I am an architect by training, and joining BAD was an immersive experience that introduced me to many parts of my profession that I didn't know. As for example, what does it mean really and meaningfully engaging with the public space, with our bodies, and with power and knowledge as architects? Sometimes it didn't use to think of the AT that we have as practitioners, but somehow throughout the different core modules and the practice module taught in the BUDD, I could be able to link theories and practice for my future practice, also for my research. So being a PhD student for me, so the program gave me a lot of insights into readings, because I wasn't, for example, used to being into research. So you the second term with what we say the core modules that have a theoretical component, but at the same time, these are linked to has a very practice component, together with the practice third term, in which we go to a location usually in the global south, in which you can put in practice everything you have learned throughout the first terms, which in some cases is more theory based. So for me, engaging with literature, that is something I wasn't used to as my background in architecture, led me to open many new doors on research and on theories to be applied on my PhD. But at the same time, being a practitioner, so I run my own organization, which is called a collective refugee. In Spanish, we say un refugio colectivo. I've been engaging with several projects since graduation in BAD, and I wanted to tell you about this specific case in which I was able to be part of a participatory workshop with a women's organization. Oh, here is Sophia, so we will introduce her briefly later. So as I was saying, I engaged in this project in Guinea-Bissau to build a women's shelter house. And the difference from engaging in practice before BAD and after BAD for me was very meaningful, in a sense that I was able to really apply all those techniques of participation that I learned, for example, with Giovanna when she was teaching the module of participatory processes, also with Catalina in the second term, in which we were able to design a participatory activity in which we could be using all this meaningful knowledge to be really using it into the practice of designing. So it's something I wasn't able to do before joining BAD, because it's very difficult sometimes to connect participatory activities with the real implementation of design projects. And in this case, for me, it was very interesting to see how all the knowledge that we gained from the engagement with those women group, we really managed to apply it into the later design of the shelter house, in which, for example, we were able to apply how the domestic space for women can help them having an easier life, for example, or how the urban space, the urban fabric of the city they live in can be fostered through the project we were building. So these are some of the insights I could gain from that, apart from really having a really immersive experience with my peers for a year, in which the sense of the cohort is very important, to learn one from each other with your colleagues that come from very different places with very different backgrounds. As Giovanna was saying, I could engage with sociologists, planners, geographers, politicians. So it's a year, a very intense year, in which the learning you gain, it comes from many different parts, from the class, from your group, from the different lectures, and as well from the practice engagements. So I hope this gives you a bit of an idea of how, as a practitioner, the learning of BAD can be meaningful in a further practice. And now I wanted to briefly talk about something we've been working in as part of BAD in the latest years. So we have been organizing a series of conversations around urban design otherwise. We tend to think about we want to think about urban design otherwise of removing the previous knowledge we had on urban design and being able to apply urban design theories into the critical moment we are living. As Giovanna was saying, the climate crisis, many areas of conflict. So how our urban design can be relearned to being able to contribute to foster social justice and spatial justice. So quoting Abdullah, referring to Arturo Escobar, he said, "Thinking otherwise is another way of thinking that runs counter to the great modernist narratives. It locates its own inquiry in the very borders of systems of thoughts and reaches towards the possibility of non-Eurocentric models of thinking." That leads me to talk about the experience of working on the practice engagement in different locations, meaning one on what we know or what we call the Global South, and another one in what is usually known as the Global North. In this case, we engaged in Medellin in the past, and recently, because of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, we had to move in the latest years our practice module to a UK location. So it was very interesting to realize how it is possible to engage meaningfully with two different locations, understanding in that case that for us, the Global South is not a geographical location. Rather, we want to understand the Global South as a contextual condition that is sociocultural, ecological, and political, which makes us understanding inequalities and vulnerability in both cases, and how through applying urban design practices, in this case, understanding urban design otherwise, we can tackle those cases of inequality both in the Global South and in the Global North. So I want to finish with the question, how is it possible to look at the South in the North, and how can we meaningfully engage with both sides, thinking at this as a context and not as a geographical location. With it, I want to thank you very much for listening to us. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can. And I will introduce you to Sophia, who is today with us. thank you very much, Sophia, for joining us today. I know you are working, so you had to cut off your time to be here with us. So that's a pleasure for us. So Sophia is an alumna from last year. She really graduated 2 months ago. So congratulations also, now that I get the chance to see you on the camera. Sophia has a background in architecture. She graduated in University of Nottingham, and currently she's working in BPTW practice on the section of open design. So Sophia, if you want to tell us a bit about your experience as a BUDD student and about what are you doing right now, we would be very happy to hear.
Thank you for having me today. Very excited to be here, and thank you, Laya. Yeah, just recently graduated. Literally got my grades yesterday, so very exciting. So I'm just here to tell a little bit about my experience as a student. I have some notes, so that's why I'm going to be looking down. Basically, some of the reasons that I joined this BUDD, this master's in particular within the DPU. I think a lot of people will say it is the idea of like trying to change paths, or like trying to sort of like bring all of my experiences that I have from the past and see where else can I take them. So at the BUDD, the main thing that I learned was recognizing power, relations, trauma, and identity in space. Those were some of the most powerful things that I learned during my time there. My main question, because I come from an architecture background, I studied here in the UK, then I worked in Venezuela. And I think that whole idea of like traveling and understanding what's being said in academia from the South or from the North, that really sparked an interest in me into how can I take my own experiences and where would they take me? So within BUDD, I think one of the main things you can experience there is the idea of deconstruct, unlearn, to evaluate your own ideas, your own constructs, where they come from, and very when you start into your research journey, the very first step is into looking into this wonderful thought of positionality. Where do you come from? How did your experiences shape you in any ways? And that's a very radical thought as a potential researcher or a practitioner in urban design, in space in particular. I started the BOD program online due to the COVID situation. Besides all of the challenges, honestly, those first few months were very enriching. We were thrown face first into all of these lectures and all of these ideas and these great big words like radical openness and being in the margin. And if the margin is actually a construct or something that is static, does it move? Does it have layers? So those first few months, everyone feels lost, and that's fine. Even more for us, my cohort that we started online and the cohort before that they did it online. But once we became together in the BOD studio, it was great, because I think the main thing with this master's is that it doesn't only happen in class, it happens outside of it. When you meet all these wonderful people from all these multidisciplinary backgrounds and learning how a space can be seen from all these different point of views, how some people have really great graphic skills, how some people don't, but they have great analytical skills. How do you bring those together into a live project? So in our case, my group was the one that participated in the Sheffield Otherwise project. There's a whole issue, and you can go and read all of our projects there. And it was just incredible actually being in the space and having all these skills that you picked up inside class, outside class, from people's backgrounds, from your own professors' backgrounds, and actually seeing the challenges in real life, actually understanding what does participation actually looks like, what are the actual limitations. And for me, the most important thing was to understand that the process of deconstruction doesn't start when we arrive, and it doesn't end when we leave. Some of my wonderful classmates, they taught me that. And just also how Laya mentioned before, the whole idea of the global South, how we have this idea that it has to be demarcated in a certain space, when in reality, the global South, as I said before, with the margin, it's not static, it evolves, it changes once you're part of it. you not only look through it, but it looks at you back. So that was something that with BOD and in the beginning of this new journey as like a practitioner or a researcher, that's very important. I was part of a fellowship during my time BOD. That was also very, very exciting, having the opportunity to work with an actually organization. In my case was with the Global Platform for the Right to a City, and actually learn what other people are interested in, what are other researchers happening outside, because more times than, for example, me coming from architecture, you stay in a kind of bubble. So it's really interesting to come and see what's everyone's talking about, what are things that are really interesting, what are happening in our own context. I'm from Venezuela, and it's really interesting to know what is being spoken in my own context, in other contexts that are similar, and other things that are not that similar. So I was very lucky, and because of all these experiences, all these wonderful experiences, now I'm working at an architecture practice called BPTW. They're based in Greenwich and in Midlands. And right now, I got hired to support the urban design team into they're working on the Chatham Town urban design code for their city center. So basically what I'm coming to do here is becoming a graphics communication advisor, or sort of like that person that has to make sure that all the material that is being brought out for the public can be readable, can be useful. What are the best ways to actually get feedback? What are those participation myths that you can hear in a lot of architecture practices? And the team here has been wonderful. We have a lot of people from, again, all different backgrounds. So I feel ready to talk to them and all our different languages and codes. But honestly, it's been such an amazing experience. Again, it's not something that stopped on the day that you graduate. It continues. It sparks an interest. It sparks the effect of unlearning. And it also, most importantly, I think, as a researcher, it makes you into a very complete and responsible individual, that you're not looking for someone to take away their data or take away their experiences and to communicate and to create this sort of like academic commodification. That's not what happens at BOD. I believe like there is this idea of, you know, looking at ourselves first, look at where we come from, what are the things that we have been shaped, what are the things that we are shaping, and how that doesn't stop with your research. Your research continues. As I said, it's not only inside the class, it's outside the class, it's in life, it's how you experience other people's experiences, how you hear, how you understand the importance of like narratives, storytelling. And yeah, and hopefully I can still bring this in the future, in my future professional career that is just starting. And again, very grateful for my time. I missed it already, although I just got my grades yesterday. But yeah, I would highly recommend it.
Thanks, Sophia. Thanks a lot for your contribution. It's really nice, nice words, nice way of portraying the BAD and what was your learning journey, which continues as far as I can understand.
There's gonna, within BOD, there's this opportunity from the beginning till like from term 1 to term 4 to create a reflective learning portfolio. So I would honestly I took a lot of advantage from this, because I was one of those people that didn't know what to research. I didn't have an idea. I didn't have any theme in mind. And from when like reading back on the reflection, that in that process is how that comes out, and like what sort of like themes are you interested in. And there's many modules, workshops, events happening at the DPU where you can go and actually interact with other people from the different masters to like sort of like concentrate on like what's your research, and also meet all these other people that maybe they do have an idea because it comes from their own background. They have their own research. They already did a research and they're just there to share and to expand on it. So, and the other thing is the studio is a wonderful place. You will take most of your modules there, and because I didn't, because we couldn't be there physically during term 1, and then we were there in term 2. I always miss that idea of like, always the studio is a great place to meet with different people, see all the different skills, have these conversations. And from what I asked from my friends, that we all thought of it is just talk amongst your peers, because you're all as confused as you think you are. no one knows more. No one, like we're all confused. Maybe someone does know what a word means, but someone actually gets interpretation. So those moments of sharing are wonderful in the studio, as well as what Joanna and Laya have said. Talk with the other peers from the other masters, because it's very interesting to see their point of view or what they're interested in, their lectures and stuff, and they all cross over. So that's my last thing to say, like, because that question of the research, that was one of my like my first questions when I came in, because I didn't know what to do. And the reflective learning portfolio was a great way to also like consolidate and solidify all the things that you go through with all the different modules, because it looks like a lot, but by the end, you do understand it. It starts making sense.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Actually, I just thought about this of the studio, which is something quite important, because we didn't say that. That is the BAT studio. That is a space that is for us throughout the year, from the beginning until September next year, where you can be all the time, whether for class, whether for working in group, whether for working alone on your individual assignments. And it's also a place of being all together, because we know that London is a very big city that can create this sense of loneliness at some point. So the studio is like a home-based space where you will always find someone from your class to have a chat with, or as Sophia was saying, to get confused together or to find solutions together. So I think that was a very important component in my case, because then we organize also the potlucks in which we all come together to have lunch after one of the final presentations or after class. So I think it's quite central to have that space to the development of the course throughout the year. So thank you for reminding. And thank you very much, Sophia, anyway, for joining us. It's beautiful to hear your experience and knowing that you are fresh graduated and you're already working on an amazing place. So I'm very happy to know that what were your learning throughout the course and what you are doing now. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Laya. Thank you, everyone who joined. Thank you, Alex. We know you're there. Thank you for hosting this event. Thanks, everyone. I think we're going to have another open day event or something like that in January. So look out for that. Please have a look at our website, at the different links that Laya shared in the chat. And do come back to us. You can find in our website, in our webpage, our emails. Do come back to us with any further question that might come to your mind. And yeah, well, maybe we see each other in London next September. Let's see. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you a lot. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.